Hello everyone, Macy Lou here, and today I have a very special topic to discuss, and it is income streams for artists. Now, these are just some income streams. I'm sure there are a ton more. These are just the ones that I could think of for this video. I use some of these, but not all of these, and there are others of these that I plan to implement in the future. So I just want to go ahead and go right into the video. So the first income stream that, of course, you could do as an artist, which is super obvious, is have an online shop. Now, you could go through Etsy, Store&B, Shopify, Squarespace, Society6, and more, but I want to put these in two different categories. The first category is the type of shop where you create your prints yourself, or even if you go to an outside source and have someone else create your prints. Either way, it's stock that you have at your home or your office or your studio or whatever. You have the physical item and you have to ship it yourself. That's one category. And the other category is using I guess you could call it a third-party site to ship out your stuff for you. So the first category, where you ship the things yourself and you could either print your prints at home or whatever, would be Etsy, Store&B, Shopify, Squarespace, or your own website, which Squarespace itself, could be your own website, and that's what I use. I use Squarespace to create my website, and it also has a shop built in, so that's one avenue that I go down. I don't have that much experience with Etsy. I've been on Etsy for many years, but as for selling products through Etsy, I have like almost zero experience with that, so I can't really give you details on these different ones, but I will say I've used Store&B before, and while it works, while it's something you could definitely use, I had a lot of trouble getting traffic to my Store&B shop. Shopify, I have absolutely no experience with at all, and keep in mind there are many others. You could go on Google and find more. But the second category I want to talk about are where you just upload your artwork and they print for you as well as shipping for you. And these are sites like Society6 and Redbubble. I have no experience with Redbubble, but Society6 I use a lot. I will say, make sure that you if you are more of a perfectionist artist, which I think a lot of us are, make sure that you kind of keep track of what seems to have quality to it. What I mean by this is I recently sold a sticker through Society6. And I had the pleasure of the fact that the person who bought the sticker was someone that I'm close to online and talk with regularly, and she showed me the image, and the sticker was not very good quality. So I've since decided not to do any Society6 stickers, and I think I've taken them all off my Society6 shop site. However, I have gotten several prints actually from them, one including my own print, and the quality is pretty good. I will say that, at least for me, I have to start to kind of lighten and brighten my art on the computer before sending it into Society6, because it tends to print darker than the original artwork. Like, especially if I'm doing traditional art and I'm scanning it in. It may look great on my computer screen, but it may print darker through Society6. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean yours is going to, because everybody's monitor is different, and it really depends on everyone's different monitors, computers, scanners, all kinds of factors. But it's really wise to at least buy one of your own prints and compare it to the original artwork to help you gauge how much you should brighten and lighten your art. So the next thing you could do is you could sell in Facebook groups. There are lots of Facebook groups on Facebook that are art groups where you can either sell acrylic paintings, oil paintings, watercolor paintings, so many different categories. So that's another avenue you could go down. I have not had any luck in this. I've tried it a few times. Of course, I don't pour a ton of time into selling on these Facebook groups, so maybe if you have more time to spare, maybe you could sell more art on there. But I also have evolved as an artist and my art has changed, so once I feel like I'm ready to sell some of my current pieces, I may try this again because I do think there's some kind of potential there. The next thing you could do is you could do sponsorships through Instagram and YouTube. So these aren't like directly selling your art, but it's ways that you can make an income by having an art business. So basically what you could do is you could contact companies and see if they will sponsor your videos. And sometimes companies will actually reach out to you depending on your fan base and how many people actually pay attention to your content and watch your videos and things like that. So definitely think of this as an option. So for example, someone like Squarespace or Skillshare could sponsor a YouTube video of yours, or some kind of art supply company could sponsor you to do an Instagram post about their products. Those are just a few ways, and sponsorships actually are probably there's probably a lot more that I could go into, but I don't have a ton of experience with that, so I feel like it's better if I just leave it at that. The next thing you could do is, of course, you could have a YouTube channel and you could monetize it with ads. Now, YouTube has a new guideline that you have to have a certain amount of subscribers and watch time. So you have to have at least 4,000 watch hours in the previous 12 months, and you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. Now, luckily, I reached this, but unfortunately, I did not reach this until after they implemented that, like literally just a few days later. So I was so close to the goal, but just barely missed it. So I had to actually resubmit my YouTube channel to monetization, so I am currently still in the waiting process. But previously I did have monetization and I did make a little bit of income off of it, but it was very small and not enough to live off of. But I look at my income streams as a lot of different eggs, you know, going into all the, well, I don't know what kind of freaking metaphor I'm trying to use here, but I look at my income streams as several different small things to create one income total. Does that make sense to you guys? I feel like it's smarter for someone like me who has a smaller fan base, a smaller audience, compared to these big artists who have these big fan bases. I think it's smarter for me to kind of try several different things and combine them. So maybe you could do that too, especially if you're just now starting out. But the next thing I'll cover is to build a community and build an audience. Now, you can build a community on lots of different platforms, so I'm going to use the example of YouTube and Twitch. So basically, where I connect the most with my audience is YouTube and or Twitch. So what do I mean by building a community? So you want to cultivate a positive community around you of maybe other artists, maybe they're beginners, maybe they're seasoned artists. It doesn't really matter. Maybe they're all of the above. Some of them might be there for tips and tricks and tutorials from you. Some of them might just be there for your personality and your positivity. Some might watch you just to kind of get an idea and gauge like what you do all day as an artist, or maybe like how you make an income. So just like this video is covering. But whatever you do, just try to make as positive and uplifting as a community as possible, because you don't want any kind of toxicity in your community if you can help it. You don't want a lot of drama. I mean, I don't know, this is just my opinion, I guess, really. But this is just the kind of community that I like to build, and the bigger you can build this community, the more likely you can sell your art to these people, to these really sweet people who enjoy either your art or your personality or both. The next tip I have is Patreon. Patreon is a great platform to make money off your art, and I already have, I think, 5 patrons, so I'm still just now starting this and building this. but I think that it's already showing potential, and you've got to have patience with all of these avenues. Nothing is going to be overnight unless you somehow just go viral, and that's super, super rare. And I think a lot of things that people do wrong is they give up too quickly and they get impatient with it and they just don't want to keep trying. And that's easy to do, especially if you feel like you have to hurry and you're always under the gun, you're always under fire, you're stressed out. I think that doing these things, you really need a space where you can, and I don't mean like necessarily a physical space, but I mean like a headspace of like being able to just, do your research, reflect, be patient, create all this content, something of value to people. Okay, but anyway, the next one is Twitch. So we sort of touched on that on a previous one, but Twitch is a place where you can actually also make an income directly on Twitch. So you can get bits, you can get tips and donations. You can get subscriptions. Now, subscriptions are different on Twitch than they are on YouTube. On YouTube, you subscribe for free. On Twitch, subscriptions cost money, and it starts at $4.99 per month. And how it works is the people who subscribe get to use emotes if you've created emotes for your channel. I currently have 2 emotes. I have one for the $4.99 tier and one for the $9.99 tier. But there's a third tier I don't have an emote created for yet, which is the $24.99 tier. But you can see the potential. Someone who subscribed to you, if you have emotes available, they can use these emotes in chat. It's super fun, and they can show their support for you and their loyalty to your channel, because they can use these emotes on other Twitch channels as well, and it can also bring awareness to your brand and to yourself as an artist and creative streamer. The next thing I want to talk about is affiliate links. So you can use affiliate links for your YouTube videos, in your description, and you can talk about them in your video and like get people to go get art supplies or something from Amazon, for example, and maybe get a little percentage of the sale. I started creating an affiliate link account, but I haven't actually implemented it yet. Through Amazon anyway, but I have another affiliate link that I use from a previous art supply video that's not through Amazon, it's through a different company. And so I have that going, and so if I get people to buy that product, then I could potentially get a cut of the sales, I guess, is how you would word that. But yeah, this is totally a great way to make an income online, and a lot of people do it. You probably actually already know about it. Another thing you can do, and we already kind of touched on Facebook group selling, but you could also sell directly on your Facebook page. And I do this a lot. I talk about my commissions. I talk about my Society 6 shop. I talk about current finished pieces. I talk about past finished pieces that are actually available for sale. I just recently posted on my personal Facebook page I think 11 or 12 art pieces that are original watercolor paintings that I have for sale. I even put the price and everything there for them to see. I tell them that shipping is extra. I tell them to DM me if they're interested. Basically, it's just another way that I'm trying to create buzz around my art and the fact that I am in the process of selling art and offering it up for people to buy. So the next thing are blog sponsors and ads. So this is very similar to the YouTube one we talked about earlier, but instead it is just for your blog. So blogs, I'm kind of iffy on blogs. I used to do a blog like 3 times a week. Years ago, I had a blast with it. It was so much fun, but I could never turn my blog into an income, which honestly, I was just doing it for fun anyway, but it was just in the back of my mind, oh, wouldn't it be cool if somehow I could sell ads on this? That would be great. But it is something you could do if you got enough traffic to your blog. You could offer to sell ads on your blog. you could have a company, you could contact a company and say, look, you do art supplies and my blog is all about art and creating art and just the artist's life in general. Maybe you could, place an ad on my blog for this amount of money per month, and just you could offer that to a company. But another thing is sponsorships, which we already talked about, but the same thing applies to your blog. You could also have a whole entire blog post that's sponsored by an art supply company, or a place like Squarespace or Skillshare maybe. Not sure if they do those, but it's just an example just to throw it out there, because I know they do it for YouTube videos, so maybe they'll do it for blogs too. You never know. But the next one is you could do some freelance illustration and design. Now, I've done things like this in the past. I've actually illustrated 2 children's books for a lady in exchange for money. And so that was definitely a freelance illustration job. And I've done some freelance design work as well a couple years ago for magazines. And so it's definitely something that you could look into, because I feel like it might even be easier to get this kind of work than to get like fine art commissions, but it really also depends on your art style and what you're doing, and if you have the skill set of illustration or design. The next thing is fine art digital commissions. So I've definitely done some of these digital commissions before, and they've been great. Honestly, digital commissions are awesome because you don't have to give them the physical product. All you do is give them the image file, and they either print it out themselves or just use it as an avatar on their website or on their Facebook or whatever the frick they want. Like, they can use this digital file for whatever they want to. And with fine art commissions, I'm still new to this. This is still new for me and a little bit more difficult, because if someone is far away and you can't just physically hand them the artwork, you're going to have to ship it. And so you're going to want to look into your shipping options, as well as how much do you really want, like how much time do you really want to spend on these fine art commissions, because the person may have a lot of changes for you. You might have to be clear on how many changes are allowed and when it starts to be an extra cost, because fine art, especially oil paintings, can take a lot of time. My most recent oil painting took me over 11 hours to create. So if you are going to do a fine art commission, I highly recommend you charge what you're worth, because your time, you could either look at it as your time being worth money, or just the art supplies and your skill set being worth money, or you could just combine all three. I really like to think of it as a mix between either the size of the painting and the time that it takes me to create. So what I like to do is I like to think about the size. I take the size of the painting and I calculate linear inches basically, and then I multiply that by how much I want to charge per linear inch. And what I do is I make sure, like, once I have that price, then I also take the hours it took me to make it and just make sure that I'm getting a decent wage per hour. So I compare. So if one doesn't really match together, I try to tweak it until it actually is viable for me to sell that painting for that amount. So the next thing is, I forgot to say one more thing about commissions. If it is a commission, I automatically am going to charge more than if it's just a painting I created from my own head without anyone giving me any input. And the main reason is because anytime someone tells you to do a specific painting, it is a custom commission. It is a special artwork that is to their specifications and not to necessarily to your own specifications. And I automatically think that it's worth more money and that it deserves to be sold for more money, because if I'm just creating a painting in my studio and it takes me 11 plus hours to create, I definitely want what my time is worth. But if I'm also creating a painting in my studio and it takes 11 plus hours to create, and someone else is the one telling me what exactly they want in the painting, then I think it deserves even more money to be paid to me, because not only am I creating this artwork in this really long amount of time, but I'm also doing it to someone's very strict, or maybe not as strict, specifications. So it really just depends on what the commission is and what all's entailed in it. But the next one is teaching workshops, classes, and painting parties. Now, I really hope to do these kind of things in the future, but I have not done them yet. And there are lots of different avenues, and it's really fun to think about. So workshops, painting parties, and things like that would be more, they don't have to be, but they would most likely be in person. So maybe you would rent a space, or maybe if you already have a studio space, maybe you just use your current studio space. Maybe you have your people come to your home. Just make sure that you're following all the rules and laws and regulations of your country or your state. For, I don't know, maybe it's taxes, maybe it's just rules and regulations for the party itself, where it's located, and what kind of food and beverages you have. Like, there are rules about some of these things, so you might want to look into that. But when it comes to online stuff, you could do YouTube videos, teaching tutorials and things, or you could do Skillshare classes. And I really, really want to look into this because I think it would be really cool to do a Skillshare class, because I don't feel like Skillshare is super, super saturated yet. I think it's a really good platform still to like be an up-and-coming teacher and artist. Because I feel like there need to be more classes on there. Yes, they have a ton of classes, don't get me wrong, but I think they could definitely use more. So that's another avenue you could go. You could also just create YouTube videos like I mentioned, but instead of just going through YouTube, you could just put them on your site. So, for example, you could create classes on YouTube and just make them unlisted. And so so the only way that the person can see it is on your blog, on your website, or on your Patreon. That way, if you make them unlisted or whatever, where the person has to have a link in order to see the video, and it won't just show up in search on YouTube, or it won't just show up on your channel on YouTube, what you can do is you can do this for your Patreon patrons. So you can offer special Patreon-only exclusive videos and classes and tutorials. That way, you've got this sort of a higher tier. So it's like maybe some of your tutorials are free on YouTube, but some of them are paid and are only on Patreon. So that's another way you could make money doing classes and tutorials, is kind of also go through Patreon and YouTube. So the next one is Kickstarter, and I have basically no experience with Kickstarter, but I just wanted to touch on it and bring it up because it is a thing you could do. But it's mostly for a project by project basis, and not necessarily like an actual consistent income. It's more of like if you want to do a big project, like you want to do an art book or a coloring book or something, but you don't really have the funds for it, you could create a Kickstarter and get people to help fund your project. And it's really, really great because you could offer rewards for people. If you reach the goal, they get a copy of the book or something like that. Maybe they get, maybe if they make a smaller donation, they get a smaller gift or reward, like a pin or a sticker. So that's an option that you could do if you're more along the lines of you already have a consistent income in something else. Maybe art is your side hustle. And maybe you just really want to put out an art book, but you don't really have the budget for it. And so you could do a Kickstarter. The next thing, and I think it's going to be the last one for this video, is galleries, coffee shops, and stock art. Stock art's separate. Galleries and coffee shops is the next to last thing on the list, and it is obviously what it sounds like. So galleries, you could go through them and they could get a commission from selling your artwork, and this is a way that a lot of artists have used over many, many, many years. And I haven't done it yet, but I do plan to try and approach some galleries in the next year. So we'll see how that goes. But if a gallery rejects you, or you just don't feel ready yet for a gallery type thing, you could do coffee shops first. So with coffee shops, it's a lot different. It's more of like, hey, do you mind to hang my art up in your coffee shop? And if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you know, at some point, I'll take it back from your coffee shop. Or maybe they might want a little cut of your sales since they're hanging it on their walls. I'm not really exactly sure how coffee shops approach this topic, but it may be different depending on the coffee shop itself and where it's located. But that's just an idea. And now the actual last idea for getting an income from your art is stock art. So you can, use websites like freepik.com, which is FREEPIK.com. And basically these sites have artwork on them that you can use for just different projects. A lot of times graphic designers have to use these stock art and stock photo websites to create their graphic design projects for their jobs. I know this because I used to be a graphic designer and I used to use these sites, and so look into all the different sites that offer stock art and see if you can get your foot in the door and start making art for them and generate a small little income from it, because I think you would get some kind of royalty for your images just depending on how many downloads they have and how many people are interested in said art. So I hope this video helped you guys out. I find it really helpful when people make videos like this, but of course, like I said, this is not the full list of ways to make money. This is just what I could think of in the moment and like what I've seen. And definitely do your research and see what else you could find. Like maybe there's some other ways you could make money with your art, but these were just the main ones I could think of, and I hope that this was helpful. If it was, leave a like on this video and share it with everybody. And as usual, don't forget, this artwork is available on my Society 6 shop as art prints and merch. So don't be left out if you enjoy this artwork a lot. Definitely don't miss out on all the products I offer of this chick. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to subscribe if you're new, because I make a lot of art-related videos. And some of them are speed paints and topics like this one. Some of them are artist vlogs. Some of them are videos about my new art studio that I'm actually currently trying to build from scratch, basically, in my basement. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! So before I go, I just want to shout out my patrons. They're on the screen right now, and I just want to thank them so much for supporting me. They're always so super kind and sweet, and they help me out a lot. Thank you guys so much for being patrons.